Okay, so we're going to just walk through. I'm going to do this. Will go pretty quickly. I think you'll have some time left at the end to maybe either start a retake or finish some homework, etc. Progress grades. I think I mentioned this yesterday. They go out tomorrow. They're going to look pretty ugly for some people, but I don't think it's a big deal. I think by the end of the week, those could be turned around, and then all you got to do is point to your better, newer grade when they finally get home, like next week sometime. Okay. Questions on that? All right. I'll update grades. When are grade checks for athletics? Is it Thursday? Thursday. Okay. So I'll update grades tomorrow. Okay. Tonight or tomorrow. All right. So let's take a look at some of these. Solve the equation. Okay, what's our strategy here? Isolate the variable. There's a single x right there, so we're going to isolate the variable. Think about this in terms of order of operations. Write this on your paper as you're doing it, right? So you can just go through the steps. You know you're not making any mistakes. Okay, before we isolate, what could we do here? Say it again. Okay, so we could start off by subtracting 11. That's fine. Notice that we've got this 4 out in front. This is sort of optional, but the way we've talked about this is simplify first, right? Distribute and collect like terms, and then we'll reverse our direction and isolate, right? So we're going to start off simplifying until things look a little bit easier, and then we'll isolate, right? So simplifying, what are we going to do? Let's see, there's nothing to do in parentheses. Those don't combine. No exponents, but we can multiply. We'll distribute the 4, right? And that's going to give us negative 24x minus 16 plus 11 equals negative 149. We could add up some like terms right there. Negative 16 plus 11 is negative 5. Now that's looking pretty easy, right? Now all we got to do is reverse the direction and we'll isolate, right? So what do we, 2 steps in order. What do we do first? Add 5, good. Negative 149 plus 5 would be negative 144. Last step? Good, good. Multiply, divide, so we'll divide both sides by negative 24. Negative over negative is positive. That works out to be 6. Okay, so next issue, do I just put 6 in and roll the dice? No, on a test that would be real dumb. We'll just stick it back in the original equation and see, right? Plug in 6 on the left side and see if you get negative 149. If you do, you're guaranteed you got that one right. You got the green check, right? Absolutely guaranteed. If it doesn't work, go back to the drawing board and see if you can either start from scratch or look through your work and find a mistake, okay? All right, find the value of the expression. So all we're doing here is simplifying. No big deal, right? We're just all we're doing here is just making this simple. So we're just going to use regular top-down order of operations. So inside parentheses, yes, negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4. What's next? Exponents, good. So we got a squared. So 4 squared is 16. There's no multiplication. There is some subtraction. 16 minus 17 is negative 1. Okay? Questions? No. Okay, good, good. All right, solve the equation. Okay, so there's a bunch of ways to think about this. And there's just a million different routes you can take. Let's just think about this the way we've talked about it, the way that seems simple. So we talked about this as clearing fractions, right? I could undo multiplying by 1/3 by multiplying by 3. Another way to think about that, same step, is, let me just rewrite this. Is just to isolate. If we're going to isolate the x, because there's a single x, we've got to do all this stuff outside of parentheses before we finally get to the parentheses, right? Well, there's only one thing being done outside of the parentheses. What's that? I'm multiplying by 1/3. How do I undo multiplying by 1/3? Okay, divide by 1/3, but we don't really divide by fractions. We just multiply by the reciprocal. Good. So we're just going to multiply each side through by 3/1, right? And that's going to cancel the 3's on both sides. And then I'm left with the parentheses. Finally, that gets me up to the parentheses step, right? So I've just got 6x plus 1 equals 31. That's easy, right? What are the two steps there? Subtract 1 and divide by 6. Boom. Do I roll the dice? No. I'll check it. Plug it back in. 5 times 6 is 30 plus 1 is 31. 1/3 times 31 is 31/3. Check. It works. Okay. Choose the graph of the given equation. All right. So more than one way to do this, but the way we've talked about this, it's in standard form. It's not written in slope-intercept form, which is probably a little bit more convenient if it's in slope-intercept form. This is okay though. Right? All we need are 2 points to graph this line, or to recognize the graph of the line. And the 2 points here would just be the intercepts. So if I want to get the x-intercept, let's let y equal 0 and see what happens. So if y is 0, that equation just becomes 2x plus 0, or 2x equals 4. What's the solution? X equals 2. So there's 1 point, 2, 0. Right? There's 1 point. What about the y-intercept? If I let x equal 0, so I plug 0 in for x, I get 0 plus y equals 4. What's the solution to that? Y equals 4. So there's the point 0, 4, right? Connect and extend, and you got it. Okay? You could if you wanted to. I mean, you don't have to do it this way, but you could very easily. I could just solve for y too. I could isolate the y. If I subtract 2x from both sides, I get y equals negative 2x plus 4. Well, now it's in slope-intercept form, right? That just tells me I've got a y-intercept. I've got a y-intercept of positive 4. There it is. And my slope is negative 2. So I'm just going to rise. That's negative 2/1, right? So I rise by negative 2, run by 1, and I get the same line either way. Might as well do it the first way, though, right? Okay, questions? So evaluate. These are the easiest ones you can get. Evaluate, value means number. So all we're doing is we're plugging the value 3 in for v, and then just simplifying, turning it into a number. So f of 3 just equals the square root of 3 minus 2. What's 3 minus 2? What's the square root of 1? Okay? Simplify the expression. Okay, this is a little, I mean, it's not hard, but there's a lot of ways you can make a mistake. But if you just write down order of operations and go through it step by step carefully, you're going to get it right. So we're simplifying, so we're going in that direction. What's first? Parentheses. So we got a bunch of stuff to do in the parentheses right here. So what do I do first in the parentheses? Exponents, right? Inside the parentheses, I've just got to follow that order, right? Top to bottom. So exponents first. 4 cubed is 64. 4 times 4 times 4. So I get 65 minus 64 in the parentheses. What's that simplify to? 1. So I get 34 minus 1 plus 8 squared divided by 32. So we got the parentheses step checked off. What's next? Exponents. So now outside of parentheses, we've got exponents. What's 8 squared? 64. So 34 minus 1 plus 64 divided by 32. Okay? What's the next step? Okay, good. Multiply, divide from left to right. Well, we got subtraction, addition. There's my first division, right? 64 divided by 32 is 2. Okay? So we're going to get 34 minus 1 plus 2. Last step? Add, subtract from left to right. So 34 minus 1 is, plus 2 is, there it is. Okay. What about this one? Same thing, right? We're just going to go through order of operations. So what's first? Okay, parentheses, but that just means any kind of grouping symbol, right? So we've got these absolute value bars here, so we've got to do everything in there first. So inside the grouping symbols, what's first? Good, I got to do multiplication before subtraction. So I get absolute value of 7 minus 16. What's 7 minus 16? Negative 9, so I got the absolute value of negative 9, which is 9. Okay, and then all this other stuff we just bring straight down. So plus 8 squared divided by 8. Okay, so we got rid of parentheses. What's next? Exponent. What's 8 squared? So 9 plus 64 divided by 8. What's next? Divide. 64 divided by 8 is 8. 9 plus 8. Okay? Just follow that order, right? Solve the equation. Okay, so this one I got more than one W. That's my variable. I've got to isolate. So I can't just isolate directly. I've got to simplify first, right? So we're going to start off simplifying until it looks easier, until I get a single variable, and then I'll isolate. First step. What are we going to do to simplify? Say it again. Okay, there's nothing to do in the parentheses, you're right. There's no exponents, but so by multiply, what do we mean? Distribute, good, because that's multiplying. We're going to distribute this negative 1 times this quantity, so we distribute the negative, right? The negative really just means negative 1. And then over here I'm distributing negative 3, so I'm multiplying negative 3 by that whole thing. So it really is just multiplication. Yep. So then that's going to give me 33. What happens if I distribute the negative 1 there? What am I going to do? So negative 9W and then minus 9. Does that make sense? Okay, you're literally just distributing that negative to both. If this had been a negative there, distributing the negative would have made it positive, right? And on this side, negative 9W, negative 3 times negative 7, positive 21, good. So we multiplied, we worked our way all the way down. Now we could, what, combine like terms? Yeah. So 33 minus 9 is 33 minus 9? 24. Minus 9W equals negative 9W plus 21. That looks weird. What's going to happen? Okay, if I add 9W to both sides, the W's go away, right? And I end up with 24 equals 21. True or false? False. So what's that mean? No real solutions. What if we had gotten 24 equals 24? All reals. That's true, so it would have meant all reals, right? Okay, and that's how we interpret that. All right, okay, these are the ones, not surprisingly, that people tend to have most trouble with, but they're not that hard. You can get this. So we've got a bunch of fractions, but other than that, it's not hard. All we gotta do is just combine like terms, and it's gonna be easy. If we can just get rid of the fractions, this is a really easy problem. Okay, so what do? Get rid of the fractions. We gotta treat both sides equally. What are we gonna do to both sides? Say it again. Greatest common, or the least common denominator, right? Least common multiple, right? Smallest number that all the denominators divide into. Okay, what's that gonna be? 30. Think about how we can find that easily. The one that's the hardest to satisfy is the 15. That's the biggest denominator. It's the hardest to fit, right? So we're just going to look at multiples of the biggest one that the smaller denominators fit into. Well, these don't all divide into 15, but the next multiple of 15 would be 30, and that works. All these other numbers divide into 30, right? So we'll distribute a 30 through both sides. And now you can just distribute it and make fractions and then reduce the fractions. That's fine to do, but remember my trick. My trick makes this a little bit easier. John, put that away, please. So 30 over 15 reduces to what? Reduces to 2. And then whatever the fraction reduces to first, you just multiply through by the numerator, right? So 2 times negative 1m is just negative 2m. 30 over 6 is 5, so we multiply that by the top. 30 over 3 is 10, times negative 2m is negative 20m, and then 30 over 2 is 15 times the top is negative 15. Now that's easy from there, right? Piece of cake. Which way are we going to push the m so we get a positive number? To the left, right? Because negative 2 is bigger than negative 20. So if I add 20m to both sides, we get, what, 18m plus 5 equals negative 15. Okay? Last two steps. I got a single m, so I can isolate it. Subtract 5. So that gives us 18m equals negative 20. Last step, divide by 18. So we end up with m equals negative 20 over 18. So that people have this, they want to make that a decimal, or they want to make it a mixed number. No, don't. Just leave it a fraction, but just simplify it. Just reduce the fraction, and that's the good answer here. So how could I reduce that? What number divides into both? 2. 2 goes into negative 20, negative 10 times. 2 goes into 18. There's our answer. Okay. Do we roll the dice? No. We put that in as a fraction. Just put in 10 over 9 in parentheses as a fraction, and see if I get the same number on both sides of this. And if I do, my calculator. If I do, I know I got it right. I'm going to probably get back a decimal, but that's okay. I'm going to get back a decimal answer on the left and a decimal answer on the right if I just plug in. And once again, in my calculator, I'm just plugging this in. 9/10 in parentheses, or no, 10/9, wasn't it? So in parentheses, I'm just plugging in 10/9 there and there, and whatever number I get on this side, it should equal the number I get on that side. And if it does, even though they're weird decimals, I know I did it right. You don't have to retake the whole test then, right? I just make sure I get it right. Okay, we're getting there. What are we doing here? Are we solving? What do the directions say? Simplify. It's easier. We don't have to solve. This is simple. All we're doing is just distributing and collecting like terms. Right? That's it. We're just making this thing look simpler. So, oops. So I distribute, just simplifying, I distribute the 7, 14x minus 21 minus 6x plus 23. Combine like terms. What about the x's? 14x minus 6x? 8x. Negative 21 plus 23. That's it. Okay. All right, so this is in slope-intercept form. Shouldn't be a big deal. We just need 2 points and connect and extend. Where do I start? Negative 6. That's B, right? That's the y-intercept. So, oops, gosh, another one. So the negative 6 gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, gives us our y-intercept, right? There's B is negative 6. So let's get rid of that. And the 1 over 4, that's our slope. We just need a slope triangle. So we're just going to rise by 1 and run by 4 to get a second point. So that's the line we want, right? The one that's got those 2 points on it. Okay? Last problem. Easy. It's a proportion. If I have fraction equal to fraction, what do I do? Right? Cross multiply. If it's just a single fraction on the left side equals some single fraction on the right side, those are super easy. We just cross multiply. So we get this cross product times that cross product, right? So 3 times 5v plus 7. We set equal to the red cross product, so bottom times top. 4 times the quantity, 2v plus 7. And what's that become? If I distribute the 3, 15v plus 21 equals 8v plus 28. What do? Okay, I want to move the v's to the left. So that gives me 7v plus 21 equals 28. Last 2 steps in order. There you go. Subtract 21. 7v equals 7. Divide by 7, I was told correctly. V equals 1. Do I roll the dice? I do not. Plug it back in, see if it works. If I plug in 1, I get 2 times 1 is 2, plus 7 is 9 over 3 is 9. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 7 is 12 over 4. Oops, what did I get there? 9 over 3, right? Should have been 3. 12 over 4 is 3. Checks. So 1 is the correct answer. Okay? Wow, that was quick. Okay, we good? All right. You may have the rest of the period to retake, to work on assignments, etc. You may.